This happened a few weeks ago. I lost my brother in combat, and it really hit me hard. I thought a trip back to the family cabin would help me clear my head. I spent so many weekends there growing up. I hoped it might bring some peace. I knew my hunting skills were rusty, but I packed my gear and got ready for a week alone in the woods. I've never stopped thinking about what happened next as I set up camp behind the cabin. The air was thick with the smell of pine. It was quiet, just me and the woods. The next day, I hiked the trails. The trees stood tall, and the path twisted like an old friend. But something felt off. As it got dark, I heard a rustling noise. I thought it was just an animal, maybe a deer. I stopped to listen. The noise was different, it felt deliberate. A chill ran down my spine. My heart raced. Maybe I was just imagining things. The following night, the silence hung heavy around me. I sat by the fire looking through old photos of my brother. I wanted to think of happy times, but then a howl broke through the evening. It sounded distant, but it sent a jolt through me. I remembered stories from my childhood about Bigfoot hiding in the woods. I tried to shake it off. Those were just tales. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. The next day, I ventured deeper into the forest. I needed to find out if something was there. I walked for hours, my boots crunching on twigs. That's when I saw them footprints. They were huge, much bigger than a bear. I felt uneasy. I snapped some pictures with my phone. I should have turned back, but my curiosity pushed me on. That night, a heavy silence fell over the campsite. Instead of the usual sounds of crickets and rustling leaves, there was nothing. I lay in my sleeping bag, anxiety creeping up my spine. Every small sound made me jump. Around midnight, I heard something outside my tent. I held my breath. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't know what to do. I could almost feel its presence nearby. Then I heard a low growl. It wasn't a sound I recognized. My skin crawled. I cautiously unzipped the tent, peeking outside. It was dark, and I couldn't see anything. But I felt eyes on me. Suddenly, I heard a voice, deep and gravelly. It whispered something I couldn't understand. My body went cold. I couldn't move. That's when I saw it, something large and dark moving between the trees. Before I could process it, my mind went blank. I turned to crawl back inside, but then I heard it, a loud snap, like a branch breaking behind me. I froze. I didn't dare turn around. The silence around me felt thick. I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I knew I had to get out of there, but my legs felt like lead. I debated my next move when I heard the growl again, closer this time. It sent a jolt of fear through me. I quickly pushed myself inside the tent, my fingers trembling as I zipped it shut. The darkness felt suffocating. That I grabbed my flashlight, trying to steady my breathing. Shining the beam out into the night, the light barely cut through the blackness. The shadows danced around the campsite, and I strained to make out any shapes, any signs of what was lurking out there. Then I heard it again, a whisper. It was clearer now, a low rumble that sent shivers down my spine. Help. The word wrapped around me, and for a moment, I thought I was losing it. Was I imagining this? But the growl followed again, as if to reaffirm my fears. This wasn't a dream. Something was out there, and it was aware of me. That I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking. I thought of calling for help, but my mind raced with all the stories I'd heard. What could I tell them? There's a creature in the woods. I could imagine their laughter. I didn't want to seem crazy. Just then, a huge figure moved past the edge of the flashlight's beam. My heart leapt to my throat. It was massive, towering above the trees. I couldn't make out details, but its shape was unmistakable. I dropped the phone, as the thud echoed in the stillness. Everything froze, as if the world paused in anticipation. That I heard the creature draw nearer, the ground shaking with each heavy step. The whispering stopped, and now all there was that growl, deep and constant. I pressed my back against the tent wall, praying it wouldn't crumble under the weight of whatever was outside. That's when I remembered the footprints. I had chased my curiosity, but now it felt like a terrible mistake. Had I unearthed something that was never meant to be found? The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. I couldn't stay in that tent forever. Gathering what little courage I had left, I took a deep breath and unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. My heart raced as the cold air brushed my face, but I needed to see what was out there. That's when I spotted a set of glowing eyes staring right at me. Frozen in fear, I felt a surge of adrenaline kick in. I had two choices: run or confront whatever I was facing. Just as I turned to bolt, the growl turned into a low roar, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. I caught a glimpse of it. The creature was charging straight toward me. I scrambled out of the tent, heart hammering, and burst into the woods. Branches clawed at my skin as I ran, but I didn't look back. I didn't dare. The darkness swallowed me whole, racing deeper into the forest, not knowing if it would be my salvation or my end. Then everything went dark. I stumbled through the pitch-black forest, my pulse racing uncontrollably. I couldn't shake the image of those glowing eyes from my mind. I pushed past branches and thorny bushes, relying solely on instinct. Each crunch of leaves underfoot sent waves of panic surging through me. I had no idea where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stop. The growl echoed behind me, weaving through the trees like a predator stalking its prey. I risked a glance over my shoulder, and that's when I saw it again. The shadowy figure loomed in the distance. It moved like a ghost, blending with the darkness, but I could see the glimmer of those eyes. They were fixed on me. Panic clawed at my throat. I sprinted away, my lungs burning, but I couldn't keep up this pace forever. I darted into a thicket, hoping to lose my pursuer. The branches surrounding me felt like bars of a cage. I crouched down, making myself as small as possible, trying to slow my frantic breathing. Silence fell, stretching on like the longest moment of my life. I held my breath, straining to hear any sound. Just when I thought I'd escaped, the growl rumbled through the air again. It was closer now. I could feel the vibrations in my bones, and dread washed over me. Then I heard it, the whispering again. Help! It was right there, reverberating around me. I couldn't tell if it came from the creature or something else entirely. My instincts screamed at me to stay hidden, yet every fiber of my being wanted to run. I tightened my grip on my flashlight, the weak beam flickering with my trembling hands. I hesitated, the darkness playing tricks on my mind, but then something caught my eye. A flicker of movement off to my right. I turned, heart racing, and nearly dropped my flashlight. It wasn't the creature at all. It was a figure, another person running through the woods, just as frantic as I was. Hey! I shouted, but the sound barely broke through the night air. They didn't stop, they just kept moving deeper into the woods. Fear twisted in my gut. Were they trying to escape too? Were they like me or something even worse? My instincts kicked in, and I sprang to my feet, following them. Maybe they knew where to go, where it was safe. I pushed through the underbrush, adrenaline fueling my every step. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath me, and I stumbled, losing my balance. I fell hard, crashing onto the forest floor. My flashlight skittered away, flickering out. And then, just like that, silence enveloped me again. I lay there, breathless, darkness closing in all around. A rustling nearby caught my attention. It came from the direction where I'd seen the figure vanish. And then I heard something else, a growl, low and menacing. It was a warning, and I was nowhere near safe. I needed to move. I had to find the figure, to understand what was happening. But as I picked myself up, I realized I couldn't go back. No, I had to push forward, deeper into this nightmare. Because whatever I had stumbled upon, I hadn't just found a creature. I had uncovered something much worse. With every step, that growl echoed in my memory, urging me on. But as I raced deeper into the woods, I couldn't shake the thought I wasn't alone anymore. What were we both running from? I pressed on, heart pounding in my ears, the pulse of the forest drowning out everything else. Each step felt disjointed, my mind racing to catch up with my body. Where was the figure? Did they know something I didn't? The growl still hung in the air, a promise of danger lurking just behind the trees. As the darkness closed in tighter, I noticed the trees began to thin. Hope flickered within me. Maybe I was nearing the edge of the woods. My legs felt like lead, but I pushed through the weariness. I needed to find that person. The growl rumbled again, closer this time, and it made me freeze. I dared to glance towards the sound, my breath hitching in my throat. From the shadows, something shifted. I squinted against the dark, trying to make sense of the silhouette creeping between the trees. It was big, massive, even, but it didn't look like the figure I had chased. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. The rustling stopped, and the creature turned its head. Those eyes, I'd seen them before. The glow was unmistakable, cutting through the night like a knife. Panic flared as I stumbled back, my foot catching on a root. I fell hard, spinning onto my back. In the chaos, I dropped my flashlight again. The beam flickered back to life for a moment, illuminating the creature. This was real. The growl transformed into a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the ground. Fear held me captive as I lay there, eyes wide, frozen in the moment, but the creature didn't charge. It stood there, watching me. I remembered the whisper. "Help." My mind raced through all that had happened, trying to piece together what this meant. This was not just a monster, it felt strangely sentient, almost misunderstood. Then I heard a rustle behind me. I whipped my head around just in time to see a shadow leaping through the trees. It was the figure from before. They darted closer, and I could finally see their face, pale, terrified. "Run!" they shouted, their voice breaking through the spell of shock that had held me. The creature snapped its head towards the voice, and in that split second, I felt my instincts kick in again. I scrambled to my feet, following the figure into the shadows. We dashed through the underbrush together, dodging branches and twigs. The growl followed us, echoing, a reminder that it was still there. "Where to?" I shouted as we ran, desperation leaking into my tone. "Just keep moving. We can't stop," they replied, urgency twisting their features. We veered left, plunging further into the forest. The growl grew louder, and my heart thudded as we sprinted over the uneven ground, barely keeping our footing. Then I caught a glimpse of a clearing ahead. Light, real light, but just as we approached, something emerged from the trees. Something massive, blocking our path. The glimmer of those eyes was the last thing I saw before everything went dark again. I woke up to a bewildering silence. For a moment, I lay still, too dazed to move or comprehend what had just happened. My surroundings felt foreign, the thick scent of earth and moss tickling my nostrils. Panic surged as I remembered the creature, the growl, the figure. I struggled to sit up, every muscle protesting against the sudden movement. The clearing was illuminated by a strange, bluish light cascading down from above. I blinked a few times, trying to shake off the disorientation. Then I saw the figure still standing by the trees, motionless, their features now starkly illuminated. "Are you okay?" they asked, their voice low and steady, though I could see the tremor in their hands. I nodded, but my thoughts were racing. What just happened? Where? Focus. We need to go. They glanced nervously around us, as if expecting the creature to leap from the shadows any moment. I could feel fear gnawing at my stomach. But, what was that thing? Why did it stop? Their expression was a mix of dread and urgency. "It's not what you think. Just trust me. I'll explain later. We're not safe here." Before I could respond, they darted off again into the trees, and I scrambled to my feet. My heart was still pounding, and every instinct screamed that I should run. I sprinted after them, my feet crunching against the fallen leaves that we wove through the dense undergrowth, the light behind us dimming as the creature remained hidden. I could still feel its presence lurking near, stalking us through the dark. "Did you see its eyes?" I gasped as we paused for a moment, trying to catch our breath. They were no what you're describing. It's what everyone fears about these woods." Their voice was strained but urgent. "But there's more to it. More than just fear." I didn't understand. What more could there be? I had seen something lurking there, something that should have frightened me. We resumed our hasty flight when I heard a rustling close by, sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through me. "Keep moving," they urged, adrenaline ramping up their voice. We dashed deeper into the thicket, and then abruptly stopped when we reached a part of the forest I didn't recognize. Old stone ruins jutted out from the ground, half buried by years of neglect. I blinked in confusion. "What is this place?" "It's where it all started," they said, scanning the area as if expecting the creature to come crashing through at any moment. "This isn't a myth, you know. People don't just disappear without a reason. There's something here that they don't want us to know." My eyes darted around the ruins, unease creeping over me. "What do you mean?" Before they could answer, a low growl echoed from the trees. It was deeper, more resonant this time, like a warning. I felt goosebumps prickling all over my skin. "Stay close to me," they whispered, and I could see the fear mirrored in their eyes. Then, without warning, something broke through the underbrush behind us, charging into the clearing. My heart raced as I prepared to run, but the figure grabbed my arm. "Wait." That's when I noticed the silhouette emerging from the shadows. It was massive, unmistakably the creature we had run from, but something felt different about it now. It wasn't the menace I expected, there was an air of confusion around its movements. "Please don't move," the figure said, but their hand was trembling, and I could sense the tension in the air. I felt frozen, caught between running and trying to understand what was happening. But deep down, I knew that growl contained a message that I needed to hear. The creature stepped into the clearing, and for a moment, I did nothing but stare. Its fur was matted and dark, blending in with the surrounding shadows, but its massive frame was unmistakable. It seemed less like a predator now and more like a wounded animal, as if it didn't quite know what to make of us. The air was thick with uncertainty. "Don't move," my companion repeated, though their voice wavered. I nodded slowly, my heart pounding in my throat. The creature's eyes flickered, catching the bluish light in a way that sent chills up my spine. There was something human-like in its gaze, deep sorrow perhaps, or fear. What is it doing?" I whispered, almost ashamed to break the suffocating silence. "I don't know," they replied, their eyes never leaving the creature. "But I think it wants to communicate." Before I could process that statement, the creature let out a series of low grunts, each sound rumbling like thunder in my chest. It took a hesitant step closer, its enormous foot crunching a branch underfoot. I felt an instinct to retreat, but I stood my ground, fear giving way to a strange kind of curiosity. "See? It's not here to hurt us," they said, trying to reassure me. "Just listen." I couldn't believe any part of that statement, but in that moment, I was too entranced to act. As it moved, I caught a glimpse of something shiny hanging around its neck, some sort of old, rusted pendant. Instinctively, I reached out a hand, as if the gesture could reach the beast across the invisible chasm of fear. "Be careful," my companion hissed, but it was too late. The creature's gaze shifted sharply towards me, and my breath hitched. Then it happened. With a sudden grace that belied its size, the creature turned and bounded into the woods, vanishing almost instantly into the foliage. "Wait, come back!" I yelled, my voice echoing into the silence. It was gone, but it left an intense unease hanging in the air. "Why did it run?" I asked, feeling bewildered and frustrated. The sudden shift from danger to tranquility felt surreal. "The woods have stories," they said, still staring into the shadows. Legends are rooted in truth, and the creature it's protecting something. Or someone. Protecting? From what? I pressed, looking back at the ruins. There was a story here, one I had only just begun to scratch the surface of. With a sudden urgency, my companion took a step deeper into the ruins. It doesn't matter right now. We have to find the source of its fear. What do you mean? I was lost, barely able to keep up with the sudden turn in our situation. Just follow me, they said, moving quickly among the crumbling stones. Feeling both hesitant and intrigued, I followed. But as we ventured further in, the ground beneath us began to tremble. Then I heard a distinct sound, like the cracking of branches nearby. Suddenly, I looked up. The shadows shifted around me, and that's when I saw a pair of glowing eyes peering through the underbrush, watching us. Not again, I muttered, my heart racing with a new kind of dread. I froze, staring into those glowing eyes. They seemed to pulse with a strange kind of life, filled with an awareness that sent a shiver down my spine. I turned to my companion, ready to whisper a warning, but they were already backing away, eyes wide with fear. "Can you see that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah," they replied, trembling. "What do we do?" I was torn between the instinct to flee and the need to know what was happening. I took a cautious step forward. Maybe it's another creature. But I couldn't finish my thought. The glowing eyes suddenly vanished, swallowed by the shadows. My gut twisted with disappointment and, honestly, dread. Had it been just a trick of the light? Then came a rustle from the other side of the ruins. It was more deliberate than the earlier sounds, heavy footfalls moving closer. I felt that same urgency from before, but now it was thick with a different kind of fear. "We need to go, now," my companion said, grabbing my arm. I nodded, feeling the pulsing need to escape. We turned to run, but something stopped us. In the distance, we heard a loud howl echo through the woods, a mournful sound that shifted into a low growl. It was the creature we'd seen earlier, I was sure of it. What was it warning us about? "We can't leave yet," I said, planted on shaky legs. "We have to know what it wants." My companions shook their head, panic rising in their voice. "No, we have to find another way out." But before we could argue any further, a figure emerged from behind a crumbling wall, blocking our escape. My breath caught in my throat. It was big, a slightly hunched shape, its back covered in dark fur, the same shadowy creature from before. "Stay back!" I shouted, holding my hands up in a gesture of peace, though I was quaking inside. The creature stared at us again, those deep eyes reflecting back our fear. It stepped forward, those large paws making the ground tremble beneath us. I could see now that whatever sorrow it held seemed to pull at its features, twisting its long face into something both fearsome and forlorn. "Maybe it wants to help," my companion murmured, barely audible. Just then, something else caught my eye. A flash of rust-colored metal glinted from its chest, the pendant. I took a cautious step forward again. "What are you?" And then I saw it, a glimmer behind the ruins, a shape weaving in and out of the shadows. An ominous form, more menacing than the creature before us. Heart hammering, I realized it wasn't just watching us. "Get back!" I screamed, adrenaline surging. But it was too late. The new figure lunged. Everything melted into chaos. As the darkness closed in, all I could think was how close I was to discovering the truth. Then, everything went black. I jolted awake, gasping for air. My eyes flew open to a reconvened world of morning light filtered through the trees. My heart raced, it felt like I'd just battled a nightmare. Then I remembered. "Are you okay?" My companion's voice sliced through the confusion. They were beside me, wide-eyed and muddy. Relief flooded me. We were alive. "What happened?" I moaned, still groggy. "I don't know," they replied, glancing around fearfully. "I just remember it lunging at us." Pushing myself up, I saw the ruins we were in were still standing, worn yet somehow majestic in the twilight. Sunlight shimmered between the breaks in the stone, but an unease twisted in my gut. Had we escaped from the creature? Had it even been real? But there, among the rubble, was something that made my breath hitch, a deep set of paw prints in the dirt, embedded with urgency. I felt my pulse quicken again, a mix of fear and curiosity. Almost instinctively, I reached out and traced the outline of one with my fingers. "Those are huge," my companion said, peering over my shoulder. "What do you think made them?" "I can't shake the feeling that it's connected to what we saw last night," I said, standing up and scanning the area. "We need to find out what it wants." My companion shook their head vehemently. "You're not serious. We saw something dangerous. It could be lurking right outside." Before I could respond, something stirred again in the shadows just beyond the ruins. I held my breath. Instinctively, I wanted to step back, but I found myself rooted in place, curiosity pulling me closer. "Stay here," I whispered to my companion, the sudden urge to explore overpowering my sense of caution. "I'll be quick." I took a breath and approached the shadows. More pace, more caution. The underbrush shifted, and I saw a glimpse of fur. It was that creature again, larger than before, but it didn't growl or snarl this time. Instead, it watched me, almost expectantly. "Hey," I said softly, fingers twitching at my side. "I'm not here to hurt you. We need to talk." It didn't move. I felt the weight of its gaze, both overwhelming and intriguing. The pendant around its neck flashed briefly in the sunlight, the same one I saw before. In that moment, I knew it was important, but I couldn't understand how, and then the earth trembled. My heart skipped a beat as I turned to see a new figure emerge behind the creature. This one was different, its silhouette sharp and angular, with piercing eyes that glinted like daggers. Whatever this was, I instinctively knew I hadn't caught a glimpse before. "Run!" A voice screamed from behind me. Just as I turned, the world around me twisted into chaos once more, and a sense of dread washed over me. What had I unleashed? I felt a powerful instinct to flee, but buried deep within was an undeniable need to uncover the truth. Then everything vanished into darkness again, but this time, I wasn't sure if I'd ever find my way back. I gasped as my surroundings shifted. This time, I didn't wake in the ruins. Instead, I found myself in a thick fog, surrounded by towering trees that loomed like giants, their branches clawing at the gray sky. My heart hammered in my chest, and panic gnawed at my insides. Where was I? "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. Silence wrapped around me like a cold blanket. The fog swirled, revealing patches of uneven ground. I reached out to steady myself against a tree, but my fingers slid on slippery moss. I stumbled backward, looking for any sign of my companion, but there was nothing. Was this just another nightmare? My breath quickened as memories rushed back, dark figures, glowing eyes, and the feeling of being hunted. I pressed my back against the rough bark, desperately trying to steel my nerves. The dense air felt thick, stifling. The fog began to clear, and I glimpsed something in the distance, a flash of movement. I squinted, straining to focus at first, all I could see was shadow. Then, it became a shape large and muscular, skirting the edge of my vision. A haunting growl rumbled low, vibrating through the ground beneath me. Was it the creature from before? I couldn't tell, but fear shot through me that I turned on my heel and ran. Every step felt heavy as I pushed through the underbrush, branches snagging my clothes. I didn't know where I was headed, but I knew I had to get away from that sound, from whatever was stalking me. Then, abruptly, the ground gave way beneath my feet. I tumbled down a steep incline and landed hard, the wind knocked out of me. Pain coursed through my body, but I forced myself to get up, gasping. As I staggered to my feet, I suddenly saw him, a shadowy figure standing at the top of the hill. It was my companion, but fear twisted my gut. What were they doing there? Help! I shouted, waving my arms, but they didn't move. They just stood there, watching, as if rooted in place like the trees. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. My heart raced as the growl sounded again, closer this time, reverberating through the ground. I turned to search for a way out, but just as I did, the figure at the top of the hill shifted. And then, as suddenly as it had all begun, it was over. The fog wrapped tightly around me again, blotting out my companion and everything else. I staggered, disoriented, struggling to breathe. But, in that moment of confusion, something caught my eye. A glimmer. I spotted it shining through the fog, a pendant, the same one from before. I dared to reach out for it, but it vanished as I grasped into the empty air. With dread settling in my chest, I realized that finding answers required more than just courage. It meant confronting whatever nightmare was waiting to return. As the fog swirled away, I blinked and found myself back in the woods, daylight filtering through the branches. I gasped for breath, not entirely sure if I was dreaming or awake. My heart was a drum in my chest, and I instinctively touched the pendant around my neck, the one I had found in those ruins. It felt warm like an ember. Glancing around, I realized I was alone again. My companion, the creature, everything had vanished into thin air. But the faint echoes of its growls still lingered in the air, and the memory of those glowing eyes filled my mind with dread. I stood there, rooted in uncertainty, replaying the events in a frantic loop. What had happened? I had evaded something terrifying, yet now I felt the weight of my choices. I forced myself to take a step forward, then another, trembling but determined to find my way back. The woods were eerily silent, creating a mood thick with foreboding. Shadows danced around me like ghosts, haunting my every move. I retraced the path I had taken when I first ran, wondering if I might find traces of the creature or clues about what was truly going on. Then it hit me, a realization that turned my stomach. I had been so caught up in my own fear that I had forgotten to seek answers, to understand the stories buried within these woods. The legends I grew up hearing were more than just tales, they were warnings, allegories shrouded in truth. I took a deep breath and pressed on, ignoring the voices of doubt hissing at me from the depths of my mind. Suddenly, a rustling echoed from the brush to my left. I froze, weighing the option to run again. But no, this time I wasn't going to run from the unknown, I was going to confront it. I stepped cautiously toward the sound, sweeping my flashlight across the ground until there it was, a footprint. No, not a footprint, the one I had seen before. I knelt down, tracing the deep imprints that imitated a heavy paw print, and my heart raced with recognition. Was it nearby? Was it watching? Show yourself. I called out, my voice wavering but resolute. The air crackled with expectation, and for a moment, everything went quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears as I waited, uncertain but unwilling to show fear. And then it emerged from behind the trees, the creature. It approached slowly, its massive form cloaked in shadows, but those glowing eyes were the same as before. This time, they held a softness that contrasted with my earlier memories. Maybe it hadn't been here to harm me, maybe it was trying to communicate, to share a story that remained tangled in fear and darkness. Please, I need to understand, I whispered, feeling both foolish and brave as I stepped closer. The creature stopped, regarding me with an almost human-like curiosity. I don't want to fight. I want to help. In that moment, I recalled the whispering plea I had heard, the single word calling out, help. A chill settled in my bones, and I couldn't shake the sensation that the boundaries between fear and empathy were thinner than I thought. The creature took a step forward, and I felt the air grow charged with tension. The shadow it cast enveloped me, and I knew I had a choice to make, to keep running or to find the truth behind the legends buried in these woods. That pendant, whatever it meant, held the key. Patting it nervously, I could almost feel its history. The creature lowered its head, its gaze unwavering, and in that moment, it felt like a bridge had formed between us. Was it possible we were both victims of this haunting past? I took a deep breath, feeling my old fears shift into curiosity. Show me, I said barely above a whisper. Show me what you're protecting. With that, the creature turned and began to lead me deeper into the woods, into shadows I had yet to explore. The atmosphere shimmered with uncertainty, and I knew I was stepping into a realm that held mysteries darker than I anticipated. But now, I felt there was truth to uncover layered like the fabric of the forest itself, and I had the chance to understand that as I followed, I could hear whispers catching on the wind, half-formed tales waiting to be retold, with edges still frayed from loss. Answers hung just out of reach, embroiled deeper within the fabric of reality and myth. Whatever awaited us, whatever secrets this creature held, I couldn't turn back. Not now. And so, I stepped into the unknown, where fear merged with hope, the stories of the woods wrapping around me once more as I ventured into a world where shadows whispered and the truth lurked just beyond my grasp. It was only the beginning.